Welcome to Self Perfected.
Hello,
Hey,
we're recording
I'm
and we're
glad we
live.
I'm glad we planned this so well.
Yes,
You
as
know how we
always.
spend all this time and
Hold on, guys.
iterations and
Let me get my
we have a
script.
draft.
Sorry, I forgot to put it in
You,
front of me.
n-
Okay.
Cameron, we're supposed to use the teleprompter app. Haven't you? Can you get my
Oh,
memo?
mine didn't get set up.
Didn't my people
So
talk to your people about this?
nope. My people.
He's in the
What?
old. He's in the
You know-
old
you know
town
who's
of
Cam-
Jefferson.
You know who
They don't
Cam's
have those
people are,
things.
right? You know who's
The cows?
Yeah, they're the cows.
Yeah, I sent you a pigeon to your cows. Didn't get it?
I think my dog ate it.
Oh.
He ate the pigeon.
Oh, Katie and I were working on doing, all the animal stuff this morning, and I look over in this sort of driveway area, and I see like one of the dogs just like laying there, and I'm like, Bella, and she like gets up, and then I see some like furry looking ball thing kind of near her, like kind of move, and I'm like, does she have a chicken over there? It was weird because it was sitting there next to her, and she was just laying down, like totally like, So I walk over there, and then there's a chicken sitting there, and it's got like little bits with like meat exposed on it, and like feathers missing, and it's obviously chickens look very wet. When they're wet, they look like it's like really obvious because their feathers get all like like pushed
Yeah.
down. You guys probably know. And so clearly she'd been chewed on, and then like one of her legs was just like broken, like it's like
Was she fully dead? The chicken?
no, it was alive. And when I came over there, she got up and tried to like move, but one of her legs was fully like, just like not operational anymore.
Fucking
So
dog.
I don't know if the dog did that because like she doesn't, it's like they're not hungry. They're just like trying to play with it. Cody doesn't do that anymore, but Bella's a little bit younger and she still will do that. And now, for whatever reason, the chickens have become a lot bolder and they come out of that area that they're in that we had fenced in. And so, which holds the pigs in there, but the chickens, they'll come out and they'll be like walking around. One time it was funny. Bella started chasing one. She got it a little bit, but it got away. And then another chicken came out like flapping at her, like clawing at her, like chasing her away. It was so funny. It's the only time I'd ever seen that happen. But anyway, so yeah, that chicken was alive, but it was obviously like the leg was totally broken. So that became pig food this morning. So, and then
Yeah, I mean, like life is just harmony all the time, right?
yeah,
Like
it's just
people are
all
like, oh yeah,
peaceful.
Kumbaya.
it'll just be serene always. Can't
Kumbaya
forget
makes me
how-
think. I was thinking about this yesterday. I want to start. You guys got to remind me about this, but I want to start calling people kimosabe. I want. Yeah, I know there's probably somebody who has that as their tagline, but that's just that. I want that to be like my thing.
Why?
I have no idea
But I
what
probably
the word
won't
means.
remember. I don't know. It popped in my head the other day for some reason. I don't remember why.
I think you've been reading like it reminds me of a name that would be in Snow Crash.
No, I looked it up, and it's like it's something that like trying to think who would say that, like a Matthew McConaughey or somebody. They'd be like,
Kimosabe.
"What's up, Kimosabe?" Like they someone like that would say it.
What does it
that.
mean? Is it a name for something? Or you
It means
literally made
like
up this
friend
word?
or something. It's like I looked it up because I had heard it before. Anyways, it was from like the Lone Ranger or something. Like it was something. It's like some Native American word. I never would have thought
Oh,
that.
really? Oh,
Yeah,
thought
I
it was, like,
know.
more Japanese or something.
That's what I would have thought. Yeah.
Damn.
So apparently, anyway. So
This is what you think about when you're watching a mangled chicken get eaten to death.
no, that's totally unrelated.
Okay.
It was something you said that triggered me to remember that Kimosabe thing.
Mm.
Kumbaya.
So it was the Kumbaya thing. What is Kumbaya?
Yeah. What does kumbaya mean?
Probably also some Native American thing. That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know.
What should
I
like
remember-
actually mean? We need to work together to change the system, and like the CIA made it like.
Oh, all Kumbaya. Meanwhile, they're like injecting like natives with syphilis and fucking blankets
So
with
that means
smallpox.
come by here.
Kumbaya here.
Come by
Actually?
here. It's an African American spiritual song.
It is.
Oh wow, I would have actually thought it was
I didn't know.
Kumbaya. Kumbaya.
Yeah. You know, what's funny is like it's mostly white people that say it.
It's like,
So-
come by, y'all.
Come by, y'all. Come by here.
Come by, y'all. That's actually what it is.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is a
Kumbaya.
reputable source, but it's we know like how Google gives you the I guess frequently asked questions in relation to what you typed in. One of them says, when slaves were running away, they would sing this song because they knew the odds of death were great. So they would pray and beg for God to come by here to protect them.
Maybe part of the problem is when you're running, you're trying to sing. I feel like that's going to compete for your lung capacity.
Yeah.
Probably helps with airflow, actually.
Airflow.
Yeah.
Have you sang when you
if
run before?
you're- What? No, like talking and running. It's supposed to be, if you can talk and run at the same time, you've got good,
I think it's more like a litmus test. I don't think it's like you're supposed to talk while you're
It's
there.
like
I
training.
think it's
Also,
more like,
just a word of advice when you're a slave and you're running away, don't sing loudly.
they will find
Just kind of maybe just hum it to yourself. Just basic stuff.
And that's why
Oh,
they
yeah.
didn't let the slaves have good education.
10 rules for runaway slaves. I'm going to write that book.
Well, that's good. That's good. I think that'll sell well. Actually, though.
Life on the run.
Yeah. Nice.
So what else? Jake was telling us some interesting stuff about, we don't have to go into the whole background context, but that point about the ballot stuff was pretty interesting.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So this guy was telling me about getting something on the ballot. He was able to basically, oh, hang on. You say I'm quiet?
Yeah, turn it up, Drake. We want to hear full. It's Sunday morning. If I don't get a certain amount of Drake noise,
Yeah.
I don't feel spiritually restored for the week.
It's so weird. 'cause,
true.
Like, okay, how about that? Is that better at all?
I don't know. See, God, what do you think? I think, like, compared to me, compared to Cameron,
What do you think? Is it good?
It's okay.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a little bit
Could be
lower
better.
than, I guess, in
Oh my
comparison.
gosh. How about now?
Why is yeah?
I'm fine with it.
there you go.
Okay. All
All
right.
I need is a little bit of Drake to
Well-
get my spirit moving.
Drake's just not talking excitedly right now.
Yeah, he's not. He
Yeah,
hasn't really,
yeah,
Once
yeah.
he,
Hey,
like,
he hasn't
okay,
hit the
okay.
high note yet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That's what
It's
Mitch
kind of
wants.
that,
He really
like,
just
he's
wants
like,
the.
he's like building that rapport, and then he's going to take us on a journey.
I'm getting you
About
guys
ballots.
ready. Okay. You got to warm it up first. All right. This
Yeah.
is the
And,
like
and you're
warming
kind
foreplay.
of you're
It's
kind
like
of
warming up to
backlit too.
Oregon,
Yeah. This is the foreplay of getting into it. All right. And then
Ooh.
you'll experience it much later on. Just
This is the foot rub, the back rub that leads to the.
that's
Mm.
right. That's right. You're like, I don't feel it yet. That's okay. You're not supposed to.
Is that a secret technique all guys use? Like, if you want a blowjob, you just like rub the back for like. It's like you start with some shoulder rubs, and they're like, "Wow, that feels really good." And then it's like, "Cool, all right, my turn."
And then you just sit back and you're like hands on your hips. You don't do the hands.
Just take
on
your
the
pants
hips.
off and lie down.
Really still. Yeah, that's my technique.
I know a lot of guys, young guys, come to this podcast for the tips.
and they should.
I should
They
have.
should.
We should have segments, and I'll have a segment called "Tip of the Spear," and that's going to be like the tips.
Okay, all right, I like it.
You can
I
end
like
it with calling them Kimosabe.
Hey,
And then we have cool
Kimosabe,
sound.
you having trouble in your relationship?
Yeah, I'm listening. Come on, I want those tips. One time you did a tip on like how to last longer, or like because you were talking about some podcast that like had come up on your YouTube, and you're listening to it, and then someone messaged me like, "What's the name of that podcast?"
I really sold that one. Like, I need that podcast. You don't need that podcast, Kimosabe. You just need to come to Tip of the Spear on Wednesdays.
There you go. Tip on Wednesdays.
I'm just saying, listen to it on a Wednesday.
Oh, okay.
It's
All right.
okay.
Just so you know, we record these on Sundays.
We record it on Sundays, so release on a Tuesday. But if you listen to it on a Wednesday, it'll support you on a Friday.
And that's what you need. That's
So, anyways, back to the ballot.
yeah. So this guy was telling me how he was getting something on the ballot. And in order to get it on the ballot, he needed 1 million signatures, right? And he said, we got 1 million signatures, no problem. And we sold a bunch of shirts with our logos on it and everything. So we were raising money for this thing. We raised $500,000, right? I was like, that's awesome. He's like, yeah, the unfortunate thing is when you raise $500,000 and you have 1 million signatures, you're supposed to get those signatures verified. So it's not just that you can get all these signatures. That's fine. Anybody can do that, right? But you got to get it verified. And in order to get it verified, you have to pay $2 per signature, meaning you don't just need 1 million signatures. You also need $2 million. It's like we raised $500,000. So that's not enough to actually get it on the ballot. And so I just saw that was really interesting because, you know, it's like you're told all these things of like, oh, it's so easy to do this in your life or do that or whatever. You just change the laws, but no, you
No,
also
you don't
need-
like it, just change the law. So,
right,
well,
right. It just change it. Just
so now you have to still survive. So which means you have to have a job according to your education level. And then in all of that, you have to have the ability to speak in a way that's persuasive, which most likely, if you're just a person in a job, you don't have that full ability. Like this person you're talking to is an entrepreneur, like a serial kind of like business person type,
Yeah.
right? So it's not like they're just some average person who's passionate about something, right? And not that passion alone can't be helpful, but you know, you have to then know how to organize and get people together and so forth. So then you have to do all that in your spare time.
Yeah.
You know, so and what if the thing that you're trying to get on the ballot or change or whatever is some kind of debilitating thing that you can't, you know, it's like the system is not designed to just make it easy to change.
right. And think about man, think about the average person. They raise $500,000. They're like, oh, I'm keeping this. I'm not going to spend all of this on a fucking ballot.
I'm going to Disneyland for a day.
That's right. That's pretty much how much Disney costs today. Yeah.
You know, it's so funny. I saw this Matt Walsh thing. He was talking about adults going to Disney World or whatever and how
Mhm.
pathetic it is.
Yeah.
Right. Like you and
Yeah.
Christine go in there like pretty much every week, you know?
How do you know about that?
Okay.
We see the photos
I'll
on
go easy.
Instagram, Drake.
There's some cool restaurants. I'll give you guys some slack right now. But you know, there's people who like go there for like to ride the rides and do all the stuff.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I have, I have family members that have property here for that purpose.
Just to go to
Literally just to go to
No.
Disney.
No,
And they rent it
really?
out.
Are you that
That's a thing.
family member? Are you like talking about yourself? Are you
She
talking about
also-
Hazel? Are you talking about Drake?
No,
What were
you
we
know
talking
what's
about?
funny? You know what's funny is that these family members well used to, not anymore. They used to comment on my post when I would post about TechnoTutor, say that I was in a cult and would put all the like Destiny stuff commenting like, oh, I've read this, and none of these articles are actually like even legitimate. They're like forums or something. Meanwhile,
Oh, they didn't find the
are-
legitimate ones. Good.
Well, no, it's like
Like, oh, you idiot! You didn't even find the correct quote ones.
I didn't find the Vice article.
How's Vice doing these days?
Oh, yeah.
But they're like the biggest like adult children I've ever encountered. I'm not close to them at all, but they're like your typical love Star Wars, love Disney, don't have kids, only have dogs, like two engineers with like very big salaries, but like this is their pride and joy is like doing really childish things. And they'll like dye their hair all crazy color. Like anyways, it's a whole thing.
Did I tell you that time we were in? I think we were in Florida, and I don't remember which time it was. One time we were for an event, right? Anyways, we were at a sushi restaurant, and the reason I know it was Florida is because the people were talking about Disney. Anyway, so we're sitting there, we're having sushi, and there's like this couple. They must have been like 27-ish, you know, something 25, I don't know, something like that. Not like really young, but also not like, you know, super old yet. And they were just the whole time talking about what they were going to do at Disney. It must have been when we were in Orlando, I would assume. And in any case, Max was sitting there, like we're eating sushi, and he looks at me and he goes, "Those people are losers." It was so like out of the blue. right? He was like, "What's that they're talking about?" Right? They're like just going on and on about. But anyways, that Matt Walsh thing he was talking about. It was one of those. It was like going through someone's TikTok where they talked about those ones where it's like, we spent $25 on this, then at the afternoon we came for a nice cup of this, and I had a meal here. It's like those fucking that format,
Yeah.
Like a
And,
day at Disney or something.
Yeah, and there was this one part where they were like, we got 3 lightsabers. And then it showed the kids like playing with the lightsabers, right? And it was like the legit ones, not like just like the I mean, I'm sure they're still plastic, but you know what I mean? Not like just like the one you get at Walmart or whatever.
Right.
And but it's like they don't collapse actually. So
They
you
make the
have
noise
so like
when you go choo choo.
probably. And then they didn't want to they couldn't bring it back on the plane, so they paid $40 to ship them back home. Which you would think $40 to ship these things that probably cost $40. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
You know how much 3 lightsabers cost?
$120.
$800.
Whoa.
Really?
Maybe that's including the shipping.
Oh, jeez.
That's insane.
I was like, what? I mean, even if they had said 300, I'd be like, okay, I get it. They're $100 a piece or something. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
No one's buying that
excited.
for their kid. These are definitely adults.
These are collectibles.
Yeah, I heard you need
And-
an engineer salary to even be able to appreciate it.
I mean, like he made the joke, but I was just thinking like, that better be a real fucking lightsaber.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it
Hey,
better
that would be
it-
sick if it was actually a real lightsaber. That would come in handy because, like,
Would
you know,
it?
sometimes
When the
just gotta
Sith
shit together.
Lords
like
are-
that
are-
chicken, that mangled chicken, way easier than getting the gun.
If lightsabers were real, I would just use the Force. I would focus on that.
Wow, spoken like the fucking dark side.
Sith Lord.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew those articles were real about you actually being evil. I don't even know
Yeah.
if they said that you're evil, but it was just
If they didn't, they
inferred
need to
that
update them.
Yeah, clearly.
But they spent like $300 on breakfast, and then it would be like they'd be like,
it better be a really good like what.
but
the
it
fuck? Like,
wasn't.
you eating
It wasn't
Disney
good stuff. Like you could tell, it was like I wasn't.
I love
I'm
what
sure,
Keith
but-
said.
What'd he
Keith
say?
said 3 lightsabers equals 400 verified signatures.
Seriously.
Yeah.
What was
I always
gonna
look at
say?
people like that. And I just feel like how Max feels. Like those people are losers. Like, but really, I feel sad for them because it's like, what are you doing with your life? What's the legacy that you're leaving behind? Like, what
Well, you're creating memories.
that are gonna disappear when you do? Like,
You're creating these very arbitrary memories based
You're-
upon you being
you're
impulsed
creating
and become
lines.
obsessed with something that somebody else created.
You're creating lines on an etch-a-sketch. That's what the
Okay.
fuck you're doing. That's it.
That's
All it
bars.
takes is a little bit of like done. Done.
You just give it a little shake.
Just give it a little
That's how most people treat their relationships. Like lines on an etch-a-sketch. You get tired of what you drew and you just shake it up and start over.
Holy
That is not a
shit.
recipe for success, people.
That's it. That's it right there. And then you claim like, oh, but I created all these memories. They're fucking gone. They don't mean shit. They don't stand for shit. And here's what actually matters. What actually matters is you're not creating memories. You're creating the reality of this world, the resonance of this world, the consequence for everybody else. So while you're over there, like really focused on this etch-a-sketch, you're just like, yes. It's like your crops are fucking dying in your field.
And they're
your
like
kids
walking
are
through
like-
other people's crops.
Yeah, you're walking all over their
They're, like,
crops. You're
shitting
stepping
on
on all of their
things.
shit.
To the Disney Corporation, you are the crops, okay?
That's right. There you go. There you go. And then then your kids are like, Mommy, Daddy, what are we gonna eat? And you're like, I'm working on this fucking etch-a-sketch. Just give me a minute.
I'm trying to create memories here.
Come on.
But in that video, the people, they had kids, okay? They seemed like they had at least 2 or 3 kids. I hope 3, because why would they buy 3 lightsabers if they'd have 3 kids?
so they could play with their kids.
Probably
Yes.
probably one kid and the mom and the dad each one of them.
Why are you assuming there's a dad
Obviously, they're 2 moms.
or one?
The other one's
Uh,
one of the people who don't identify as either.
True. They identify as a dark Sith Lord or whatever. But what was the point I was going to tell you guys? The other point that was like relevant was they kept saying like, okay, so we went to this part of the park. The lines were about 120 minutes, so we went on one ride. Then we went to lunch, and then had spent this much, whatever. We went over here. We got on one ride, and then we went over here for dinner or whatever. And it was like they rode 2 rides in a whole day.
He didn't get that.
So
fast
you just went there
pass.
to eat and buy some lightsabers and ride like 2 rides. And they even had the express pass and everything. They said like, even though
Wow.
we had the whatever pass,
What?
that was like 2-hour
Damn.
wait.
They do not
That's
know what they're
insane.
doing. Okay,
So,
remember
okay.
remember when
Yeah,
we
you
went?
just- you just need a disabled.
Yeah.
Jess.
Yo, we know how to do amusement parks, okay? We go to one a decade, okay?
First
And,
off,
that shit was good.
you get your wife to have a surgery, right?
Yes.
So she can't walk. Second off, when you get there, you ask for a wheelchair and you
Mm.
let them know we've got 10 people in our group. So we're not just going to need one wheelchair pass, we're going to need a wheelchair pass plus 9. Then you go to every ride and you walk right up to the front and you're like, I'm here with my crew. What you gonna do? And they put you first in line.
It's beast.
No, they're like, wait, you have to get in this 2-hour line behind all these other disabled people. You're like disabled, you have the express pass, you paid the extra premium for the other thing or whatever, and it's a 2-hour wait.
I could see that
Everybody
happening at Disney.
It's still on the outside of the fucking park. And they already
Yeah.
paid their admission and everything.
Right. Yeah. No,
Okay.
basically, to get into Disney, it's like you pay to get in, you pay for an express pass, you pay 3 times what you would pay for food anywhere else, and even like in a fancy restaurant, you're paying 3 times as much. And then to buy literally anything there, it's like you can only buy it there, and it's ridiculously priced. And your kids will go crazy if you don't buy it for them. So you must buy it. You better be ready to spend like about
I
at
wonder
least
how
a
many
down
heart
payment on a
attacks
car.
happen at Disney.
What's that?
Like, I wonder how many heart attacks happen.
At Disney?
Yeah, where like the dad is just like, God damn it. Like, this is more than I thought. I'm in, I gotta keep my wife happy and all that. And then they just fucking go.
You know what
down.
happens often at Disney is heat stroke. People usually are like out for heat stroke. You don't see it, but there's all these little tents behind walls where like when somebody passes out, they behind this wall. And they basically just like, have like air conditioning there for you and they cool you down and give you a little ice cream. They'll actually give you ice cream for
And they
free.
charge you. Okay, your heat stroke tent visit was $400 per hour.
Hilarious, right? And then they send you off on your way, like you're good, you're good. But yeah, you're right. Like Disney right now, especially, I'm sure it's even more packed than it used to be because one, there's this threat of like Disney saying they're going to move out of Florida, which may or may not happen. Who knows? But
Where
two,
do you think they go?
Dude,
Who knows?
Were
What's
they
going
gonna
on?
fucking
abandon
joke.
all these things
Who
they were
gives a fuck?
building? They've literally created like a city within Orlando. It's kind of
The-
like the Vatican.
they have their own
But
special
it-
government,
Seriously.
so that's
Like,
why they're
we're-
here. Yeah.
We're so
And
we're
a
so
lot like the Vatican, their business model has a lot of abusing kids.
Just like the Vatican.
Literally.
And they're just basically a real estate empire.
Right. But yeah, I think right now, especially, I've been talking to a lot of people and they're saying people are so diehard for travel because of the last pandemic years or whatever that they weren't allowed to, that people are willing to spend way more money and travel way more often than they used to be in the past, especially from other countries. We're gonna
Wow.
say,
Guys,
Cam?
can I share my screen?
Yeah.
And I just
Wow, it's just like everyone's mind got compounded more and more and more.
It's funny
They're
because
like,
it's like all
"Shit."
these same people probably complained that Florida was open like after the 2 weeks,
And
during
now
the
they're flooding
pandemic,
us.
and now they're all coming here. Because those are my
I'm gonna show
cousins.
you. I'm gonna show you this first, real quick. Check out this moth that was on the chair this morning.
Damn.
And there's
That is a
another one
bird.
right here because they were mating,
They're copulating.
copulating. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
So we went to Shreveport yesterday and had some lunch and did some errands. And like we went to the bookstore and after a while I got some books for myself and I was trying to find the kids. Here's Seneca. She was just sitting there in the kids' room reading.
I love it.
And then Max was like over here, like I found him in like the fiction section over here reading. Right.
Look at
Isn't
that
that
book.
cool?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Oh yeah. Even look at Seneca. Look at that
I
one.
know.
Yeah, two
I
It's a
know.
chapter book.
I know.
It's got like 8 chapters and she's 4. And she
Dude,
read
that's
the
so
whole thing
cool.
and then she was telling me like all the story about it. She was asking me questions.
That's
So
so.
I want to
fucking
share,
cool.
I'm gonna share something else though.
Wow.
Okay, so here is the thing I was going to show you guys. Check this out.
Oh, these are the lightsabers.
Yeah, so this is like Galaxy's Edge. I guess it's one of their sections in Disney. I'm not really fully sure. But anyways,
What is that?
check
What's
this
happening?
out.
I don't know what's going on. There's a website
wow.
for buying
This-
lightsabers.
yeah,
is-
it's just showing you like all the lightsaber prices.
So when you go in there, you like build your own lightsaber. Essentially, is how it works. So like you're like, oh, what's the handle that I'm gonna have, and what color is it going to be, and whatever. I wonder.
This
do
is
they-
weird. Go ahead. Sorry.
Do they sell red lightsabers? I'm curious. What do you think? Do you think they sell the red lightsabers?
I don't know.
The reason why I'm asking is because like
To prostitutes? He's the only one who gets the joke. Okay. Anyways, it's a red light.
No,
Red light.
I got
Oh.
it. It just
Come
was
on.
funny.
Oh,
You treat me like I'm Jar Jar Binks over here. Okay. Like I'm not funny. Like, what was your point? Why?
because
Because
it's
they're
like
evil or what?
exactly like okay, like why would you
wouldn't
want to identify with evil? And I know it's not just Star Wars, right? But I mean, like, there's so much in our culture where it's like just to be contrarian or whatever. Like people will identify with evil. Like, yeah, no, I'm an evil Sith Lord or whatever.
Like he's literally a guy, or well, Darth Vader, all the evil guys. Like they literally genocided people and like blew up planets. And
right?
they're like, cool, I want to be like that guy. Oh, but Trump, over here, it's like, or Hitler, and you're like, why isn't
Right.
it okay to be like, it's in the past, it already happened. I'm not gonna do it, but just I want to pretend like I'm Hitler. I just want to like buy all the Nazi stuff and walk around. You would be like, no, you can't do that. But
Right.
like it's okay to do it with Darth Vader.
Right. Well, I think
And that's
the
what he
argument-
represents. He literally is like Hitler, right?
I think the argument most people would make is that it was fictional. But so are those stories too. You
Maybe there's
just-
something to the look at this. Okay, hold on, I'll show you guys the pricing.
Uh,
The Skywalker box set is $375.
oh, that's it. Oh, okay.
So here's how they got the
2,000.
800. Mace Windu, $249.
Kylo
Obi-Wan,
Ren.
why is Mace Windu so expensive?
Okay, look. So you can get Kylo Ren. You can get Darth Vader. You can get.
who is Cal Kestis?
Darth Maul also.
Darth
I don't know.
Maul.
Dang, Darth Maul. I would think that would be more expensive because you got double lightsabers, but it's actually
It's
pretty cheap.
169 because it goes both ways.
Hey,
You've got
see, like that one.
I saw one when I was scanning through this for 550. Where did it go? I thought
Yeah, it was right above the one you highlighted.
Oh, here it is.
Obi-Wan
okay.
Kenobi.
Oh yeah, the
Limited.
Obi-Wan Kenobi limited
Limited.
edition box set.
There's only 3,000.
Limited, yeah. Ooh,
I want to see, what do you get in this? What is in this? Oh, here we go, guys. Somebody's already selling it on eBay for 900.
Nice.
It's like the Bitcoin of lightsabers. All right, here we go, guys. About to jump in. Here's what you get.
Oh, you get
Look at
3.
that. Look at these.
Wow.
These things.
Okay.
What does it do?
What does it do? It just looks like
They're just the hilts. They're literally just the handles. That'd be like if I sold you a commemorative sword and I just sold you the hilt, no blade.
You know
what
what it
does a
looks
person
like?
do? Do they look at it and just be like, imagine if I could turn this on?
It sort of looks like I don't know, like something you'd find in your light bulb circuit. Just
It's like you just unscrewed the like
This is-
lampshade. and
Right?
you took it off.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
But look at the craftsmanship.
Looks like it was. I don't know, man. That looks like it was made in fucking China.
Look at that.
Don't diss Mitch.
uh,
Come on. People spend a lot of money on this stuff.
One of those nice Chinese ones. You know,
Guys,
like
This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight, not as clumsy or random as a blaster, an elegant weapon for a more civilized age.
Keith said very expensive flashlights.
There you go.
A flashlight
Gets it.
is more useful. Here we got Kylo Ren.
Mhm.
You know, remember him? He's as the one that
I-
goes.
is
It goes
it-
like in 3 directions.
it literally does it. Does it not go out?
Nope. Oh, but you
No.
can
Oh,
buy a
that's
blade
just-
for it. It says you can buy a blade for it.
Oh,
Okay.
This is so
What's that moment like in a person
Guys.
when they're taking it out of the case and then they get like the long ass like tube and they're like screwing it on?
yeah. Like what's going through their mind?
Like, and they just imagine for a moment it's not on there and they go, zoom. Oh, whoa.
That's pretty
Like
much it.
that is the purpose of their life right now. I mean, it's not their actual purpose, but that's the purpose they're fulfilling.
Doesn't make sense though, because like,
Getting
okay,
off on it.
you have blasters.
I'm listening.
Why do you need these swords?
oh, you've got a sword. That's what you're
Blasters
saying.
exist. So why do you have it's like if you had guns and then you have a sword.
Well, you can block the
Why?
guns, okay? Cameron, have you seen the movie?
Yeah, that's true, actually.
Like imagine being shot at and you could just make it fly back at them.
Yeah. So there you go. That makes it more useful than a gun.
But it's not like your lightsaber shoots, though. All you can do
Plus,
is
I don't know
block.
if you know about this, but actually you want to bring a knife to a gunfight. If you're within close enough quarters with somebody, you know, then you're actually faster with a knife than somebody who has their gun holstered. I'll say it that way. So
Hmm.
Okay, so with holstered, is there a something on top of it and then you have to go off and then up?
Doesn't
or is it
matter.
more one of those Western just
doesn't matter as if it's holstered and like, well, for a police officer anyway, if somebody's like running at them with a knife, the person with the knife is likely going to be faster than them unholstering their weapon and shooting them.
Okay, but what if you have a knife versus a lightsaber?
lightsaber
Ooh.
for sure. Which edition of the lightsaber?
Yeah, which edition?
I
It
don't know.
depends. How much did you pay
Why-
at Disney?
Why are lightsabers necessary in Star Wars?
This is the conversation today.
I mean,
I think it
people need to know.
represents penises to people.
The lightsaber is the weapon of a Jedi, an
It's
elegant weapon of a more civilized age. So they've totally bought into Obi-Wan's propaganda at this point. They're like saying it like it's a fact. It can be used to cut through blast doors or enemies alike. Using the Force, a Jedi can predict and deflect incoming blaster bolts and reflect them.
You know
I mean,
what?
interesting
But
that they say.
Are they doing it with the
civilized
Force or with the lightsaber?
Wow. Hold on.
'Cause
If
that
you scroll
doesn't-
down,
Yeah.
there was quite a video. Why yellow lightsabers are way more important than you. ...
Then you know. That's what it's gonna say.
That's
Hold on, guys. Okay, here we
that's
go. I'm
insane.
just gonna settle this once and for all. We're on Quora.
Oh,
Love Quora.
This is non-canon though, so guys, I want to take this with a grain of salt. But this is the best answer. The tradition of wielding a lightsaber started in the way old days. So we're talking before the actual events of the current. When the Jedi Order was the Jedi Order, which focused on staying balanced between Ashla. Dude, they got a whole mythology. This order was in a system with several inhabitable planets and no hyperspace travel. So first of all, they didn't have hyperspace, so I can understand. The order was a peacekeeping and semi-military order. So they used force imbued swords as their chosen weapon. Oh, did you guys know that?
Oh, they have the Force in them.
The sword is got the Force in it.
So that's why they just sell the hilt, because if you have the Force, then you can just,
You don't fucking need.
yeah, you just make it come out. Just, you know?
Oh, but
So-
you know what? They had power packs attached to their belts, but that became smaller. You know, it's just like any technology, it gets smaller, more portable. So they still needed what lightsabers because they didn't stop using them as they were useful in dealing with less dangerous enemies. So, you know, it's like just a backup basically.
You
Wow.
ever notice in
Glad we
that
settled
story, it's like they're destroying the Sith. It's like the Jedi's they're pretty much like military. That's it. Everybody thinks they're like these like peaceful monks or some shit. I don't know.
I
But
thought the
they're
stormtroopers were military.
well, they're also military. They're just military on opposing forces. It is basically like China
I
versus
mean, they have bases and squadrons and
yeah. Like Jedi are like, I don't know, China.
okay, question. If one of those weird giant things you ride on the ice planet died and you were out, you like couldn't get back, would you slice it open and get inside?
Yeah, 100%.
Keep
You'd have to.
warm. It's like just straight up survival logic.
What
Hey, you know
else are you
something I
gonna
was
do?
thinking about also based on, I was thinking about the survival point is like when people say like, well, I have to survive also, right? Like, you know, we talk about the difference between living versus survival.
Mhm.
But what does survive mean? It's like when someone's like, oh, I have to survive, as if living doesn't imply that you're still alive.
Yeah, survive just means continue to exist, right?
But it's like when you say, oh yeah, but I also have to survive, it's like you're still focused on just surviving actually.
Yeah.
Because if you were just like, I'm just gonna live, like I'm gonna be here, I'm gonna live, you would do things that sustain your life. But you wouldn't be in the frame of mind of surviving. So when you think about surviving, like survivor, it's like you're struggling. And so like the system that we live in literally is always placing everybody in a form of state of mind of survival when we don't have to. We could literally just live. It's like, well, we have to survive. It's like, no, you don't. Like, that doesn't mean you die just because you're not going to survive.
That's interesting.
Does that make
It's
sense?
like
Yeah.
it's basically like somebody saying you have to struggle, but then they know people would react to the word struggle, so they just changed it to survive. And then it's like, yeah, well, you have to struggle, right? Like, do you actually?
Well,
You
it's
don't have
funny
to
that
struggle.
the etymology comes from, it's basically a combination of the word super, which means over, and then vivere, which means to live. So it's like you're out living. You're like living over.
But you're not even doing that. You're just
Yeah.
continuing
Oh,
to
I see
struggle.
what you're saying. Yeah. In addition, it's like super. Yeah. It's like super. It says in addition added to live.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really weird. But then hold on, I'll share mine. But I just look it up on Google. But also it's like look at the context of all the definitions here. Continue to live or exist. Okay, that seems fine, right? Especially in spite of danger or hardship. And that's really the connotation that everyone really uses the word.
Mhm.
Continue to live or exist in spite of an accident or ordeal. Remain alive after the death of a particular person, like it was survived by them.
Oh, dude, I was hearing this person tell this story. This is a 5th grade teacher telling this story. And he's telling the story of like, oh, you know, we were in the auditorium and the vice principal announces we're going to do a penny drive for autism. Big whoop, whatever, pennies, who
What's a
cares?
penny drive?
Where everybody just collects pennies and then
Oh, okay.
however many pennies they collect that goes to the foundation or whatever.
Well, did they watch the documentary Vaxxed? Because that might help. Bet the pennies didn't go to that.
so anyway,
They want to collect 2 cents when they should just have common sense.
So they collect all these pennies, and then when they collect all these pennies, nobody's excited in the auditorium because like who's excited about collecting pennies? But
Who's excited about autism?
right, but
If they got
then
the autists, if they got the autistic people to collect the pennies and be like, hey, who can find the most rare whatever penny, they'd just be going crazy on that.
There you
They
go.
probably get so many fucking pennies.
The vice principal then says, but whichever class collects the most pennies will get a pizza party, right? And so then all the kids go crazy. They're like, yeah, we want the pizza party, right? And so this fifth grade teacher is like, I know my kids, and we're not going to win this. We're competing against kindergartners who have the helicopter parents, who they're totally going to collect as many pennies as possible. And so I have to find a way for us to win this pizza party because I'm very competitive. So all we care about is the pizza party. So he's like, so what I do is I wait 3 days. And on the third day, I go to my kids just before recess and I say, hey, when I was a kid, I used to get into fights all the time. All the time I used to get into fights and I would win these fights. And my kids are looking at me like, there's no way you want fights. Like you couldn't possibly win a
Fat
fight.
fuck.
Right, exactly. He's like, no. I know what I look like, but I would win fights. And they're like, weren't you worried about being called a bully? And he's like, we didn't have bully back then. That wasn't a thing. You just fought. There was just blood, sweat, and fights, and winners. Okay. He's like, but I'm going to show you guys how to win. All right. We are going to win this fight when it comes to the pennies. So here's what you're going to do. The way I would win all these fights is I would let the other person punch me first, right? And no matter what happened, I wouldn't show any emotion, and it would demoralize them. And then they would stop the fight. Okay. He says, so what you're going to do is you're going to go out during recess and tell everyone we already have 3 jars of pennies. All right. And that's going to, but we don't have 3 jars of pennies. I know. But just, that's what you're going to say. This is how we're going to win. So he tells these kids this. They all go out and they say they've got 3 jars of pennies. And he's like, and it works. Every other class, all of a sudden, there are all these pennies coming into the school, and now no pennies are coming in. It's just gone to a trickle. And when the teachers are asking their students, why aren't you bringing in pennies? They say, because Mr. So-and-so's class already has 3 jars. We're not going to win. And so he says, then all those teachers go and tell the vice principal. The vice principal comes over to his class and he says, show me the 3 pennies. The 3 jars of pennies. And he's like, well, the truth is we don't have 3 jars of pennies. It's like, so why'd you do that? He tells them why he did it. Like, here's how we're going to win. We're demoralizing everyone else. I'm teaching these kids a lesson. And the vice principal goes, yeah, no, you can't do that. That's wrong. You shouldn't be teaching kids that. You need to go and tell everybody the truth and get your kids to tell everybody the truth. And he says, well, obviously he didn't understand like the purpose of what I was doing. I was teaching them a lesson of how to win in this world because I really care about them, right? These are my kids. We're the best in the school. I love these kids more than the other kids anyway. He's like, so this lesson is a lesson in how to survive in this big bad world. You're going to have to step over some other people and put them down in order to survive in this world. And so sometimes you get a lesson that's not pretty, but it's a good lesson. They need to learn. So I still stand by it. And guess what? Even after we told all the teachers and all the kids that we didn't have 3 jars of pennies, we still won. So, because he said the reason why is because after you demoralize somebody, especially kindergartners, guess what? They don't come back. That's it. They've been demoralized. They don't have a second hurrah or anything like that. It's done. It's over. And that's how you win. So I may not be the best at teaching good things, but I teach the real life lessons. I was looking at that. I was hearing the story and I was like, this is so fucked. So absolutely fucked. Because this is how people actually think. And it creates those conditions of we have to survive against hardship.
What if like in his 5th grade class was like the next Hitler? No, seriously, like the next like fucking psychopath dictator, like the seed of that. And then
Yeah.
he has that kid and then he teaches that. I was just thinking like if I look at how smart Max is, for example, just because he's the oldest kid, right? He's at this very advanced level. I'm like, if you were to teach, it's not really teaching. It's actually just you're just because it's a whole artificial thing. None of that was real.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you were to try to teach him those lessons, like, and he's so far advanced over everybody else, like, why would you teach a child like that? I mean, obviously we understand why, but and it's like, okay, if that guy was serious, it's like, why is he a teacher?
Right.
Did he win? So what is he actually teaching them? Because it doesn't make sense. Like there's a incongruency there.
Obviously.
And also like, but I think it's an interesting point because it's kind of like he taught that principle a lesson, actually. It's like, dude, you wanted to raise it about autism, but you made it about winning a pizza party. He created that. He created that.
That's true too. Yeah.
So it's like, it wasn't really about, but I mean, the whole thing about getting pennies for autism, what was the point of that?
Yeah.
Why was that even happening?
I don't know.
So clearly somebody went in and sold the school on doing that or something. I don't even know. Maybe
Yeah.
the school was going to get a cut. They were going to give him a jar of pennies. Yeah.
That's often what happens, right? It's like, oh, we're going to raise all this money and you get 20%. And the school's like, done.
So like the pizza party, he should just get everybody a pizza party.
Can't do that. Can't.
If you raise a certain amount, you know what I mean? Instead of making it like the one who wins. Bruce, go ahead, Mitch.
That's just really fascinating because I've been listening to a lot of Equal the past week, and there was a really cool lesson in one of them. How it's like when you realize that something is fucked, and it's like it's not creating a best outcome. The more you focus on it and the more you do it, the more you actually fuck yourself over. It's like if you know deep down, like I don't know, drinking alcohol is not best. Like you can just see the obviousness of that. But then you're like, but I have some here and there, and you just keep spiraling. It's like the best thing to do is the moment you realize it's not best, just okay, cut it off and go back. But it's like that's what we've accepted and allowed with school. And it's not to say now, okay, close all the schools and whatever. But it's like, I mean, it's like the idea of accepting that, okay, put the kids there, that's what has to end. And then it's create a plan for each of these families.
I was talking about this with some older people about like closing down schools. And because here in Florida, we're doing the governor just signed a bill to do the voucher system, right? And basically like every parent who has their kid in private school, now that money goes to the private school. So now that parent has more money in their pocket, right? And I was just saying, we should just take it all away and just give every parent the money that is being spent on their kid anyway to go to school, give it to the parent so they can educate their kids at home. And they can do that. They could literally get paid to be at home with their kids and educate their kids, right? And, I'm sharing that from the perspective that I have of like, we have the tools to do that. We can support those parents, all of that, right? And they were all like, whoa, no, that's too far. That is way too far. No way. We can't do that because all these parents are just going to take that money and do shady things with it. They're not going to educate their kids. That's a really slippery slope. Like, no.
Well, if you give it to the government, they're just going to take it and do shady things and not educate your kids either.
Exactly. Like,
let the parents waste the money. They'll have a consequence. Their kids were not going to be educated anyways.
Right.
Like people, look, if this were the 1950s or 70s, even, it's like, okay, you can get a high school degree and you can get a job. Fine. But it's not the fucking case anymore.
No.
So why are we pretending like, no, these kids need to be in school so they can earn a living and get educated? It's like, that's not happening. Even if you didn't think the schools were brainwashing you, even if you didn't think they were dumbing you down, even if you just thought nothing weird going on there, it's not preparing kids for their future. It's a waste of fucking time. It's actually abusive.
You'd have to be dumbed down to think that, actually. Like,
or you'd have to be a boomer who's still living in your Etch-a-Sketch.
I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and a lot of people are aware now. It's so weird, because a lot of people, number one, are aware yeah, what's going on in school is bullshit. I don't like this shit. Right. And some of them are people who don't have kids and they're like, they can see that it's bullshit. Some of them, though, do have kids and they have their kids in school. I'm like, what are you doing? You just told me it's bullshit. You can see it. And they're explaining all the points of how it doesn't prepare them to be an entrepreneur. It doesn't do this, do that.
It's
They
just
still
like
have-
Mitch was saying though. It's like the person saying, well, I know that alcohol is not good, but I'm still gonna drink it. Or porn is another example. It's like the guy, as a guy you know, any guy who's like rationalizing it, it's like you fucking know. That guilt and shame that you feel is valid.
Yeah.
Just in the same sense of like if you just every day didn't eat good food and you ate a bunch of really shitty food, you know what I mean? You're like, well, don't shame me for how I choose to eat. And it's like, but it's actually bad for you.
Right.
But it's funny because like some of these parents will be like, well, I'm gonna put them in a private school. Like I'm gonna put more.
I always
money
see that, dude.
into
It's like
it.
that's why I don't like the public schools.
But
And
it's
you're
like the same thing with the food. It's like, oh, I'm gonna eat at Chipotle because it's like a little bit better, but it's still fast food.
Are you
know what I
talking
mean?
shit about
It's
Chipotle?
Yes, Drake.
How
Drake,
fucking
haven't
dare
you heard of seed oils? Okay, Drake.
How do you think I survived before you came into my life, woman?
Barely.
you survived. That's our point.
Yeah, survive.
Anyways.
It's a cool point though, because like I was gonna say something else too onto what Mitch was saying. Like I was watching something or listening to something this morning, and I think it was that conversation between Jordan Peterson and Konstantin Kisin, and it was he made this point about like as long as, or no, I also listened to some of the Catherine Austin Fitz and Kim Iverson. It might have been that one, but one of them was saying like as long as the system is working, like you have your job, the money's coming in, you're fine with it,
Right.
you know. And so that's kind of the issue is like the parents, they have to go to work as long as the kids are occupied, as long as things essentially work. You've got your holidays you can spend with your kids where they get excited, so you get to see some of the joy, happiness, whatever, as long as that's basically working, you know. But now we're starting to see all that break down because people are putting their kids in school and they're becoming transgender.
Kim, did you see that video I sent you of like the first casualties of AI? See that one?
I started watching that, but what was the point?
It was
Or no,
basic-
I listened to the whole thing. I listened to
yeah,
it.
it's only like
This
3 minutes. I'm
morning,
like, you started watching it. What the fuck?
yeah, I don't know why. Yeah.
How distracted are you?
He was,
If
he was
it's-
browsing lightsabers.
I'm still trying to decide between Kylo Ren and Obi-Wan Kenobi's limited edition.
Get
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Mace
yeah.
Windu one to prove that you're not racist. Okay.
That's why you have to get it, right? But they were basically just sharing how all these companies already are in the firing line of AI, like LegalZoom, like big companies like BuzzFeed and Vice and all this, like, because literally the AI can already do what all these companies do, just as good, if not better, than these companies, right? And it's like, okay, so you're seeing this. You used to be able to get hired at these companies or whatever, and now it's really the case that you cannot get any job. Like, it basically, to your point of what you were saying, of like, even if you're thinking the school system, like, okay, at the end of it, they're going to get a job or whatever, that is clearly not happening. Like, it's already today.
It's certainly
So-
not a job based on a high school fucking education,
Right.
or even a college education.
Right. Oh, but Christine was just telling me the other day, Avery had sent a video of like basically they're doing away with child labor laws, or making them way more lax, right, in a lot of different states. And Christine was telling me about how like, they found like 10-year-olds, was it?
Yeah,
Right.
in like Kentucky, working at like a fast food place or whatever, but it's
Was
like
it Kentucky
night
Fried
shift.
Chicken?
I was gonna say, was it Kentucky Fried Chicken? I don't know, but it was in Kentucky.
10-year-olds on the night shift at KFC.
There you go. But it's like, okay, and what they're
And
doing
they
with
were
these
doing
kids,
like the cash handling and like the deep fryer. Like they were not just like sweeping floors. Like they were full on working.
If they were just sweeping
Wow.
floors, Christine would be totally cool with that.
Exactly.
Keep them away from the fryer. She's like, she got the mom instinct. She's like, guys, that's a little dangerous, don't you think? Sweep the fucking floor.
but basically, they're paying these kids way less than what they would have to pay an adult, right? And
Wait,
it
is
was-
this legal? What they were doing?
this is what they're making it legal. They're making it legal. And
No,
a
I
lot
know,
of
but
the
you were
jobs-
it's like you were like they're paying these kids less than they have to pay an adult. It's like you probably don't have to pay them anything. You want some lollipops after work?
there you go. But yeah,
If you work really hard, you can win a lightsaber.
that would work actually. That would work. And then you
Dude,
like
that would probably get like 50-year-olds in there busting their ass, looking that fryer. Like, oh, I'm gonna get the limited edition Kylo Ren.
true. But yeah, it's like, okay, your kids are not educated. They're not gonna get any decent job. They're gonna get jobs where it's like, man, what's that? What was it? Okay, people are always complaining about, or at least what was it, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people were always complaining about how Mexicans are coming over the border and taking everybody's jobs. You remember that? Like, that would just be the thing. Well, I don't know if Christine, she was in Canada.
No, we have the same thing.
You have Mexicans in
I just
Canada?
call them illegal aliens here.
Now we've got all these fucking Venezuelans coming over from Canada to steal our men.
No comment.
Hey, I was gonna say more like the men are poaching, but okay.
What was it that we were watching the other day? Oh, you know what movie we watched the other day? Ex Machina. You ever watch that movie?
I thought it
Dude,
was
maybe.
Ex Machina, but it's Machina.
Oh, yeah, Ex Machina.
Makes it a totally different meaning.
She's like Ex
For the whole movie.
Machina. No, it's the pronunciation.
cooler
What
that
what,
way.
what happens at the end? Give me the spoiler. Give me the spoiler, and
I'll
then
give
I'll
it to you.
remember. if I
Wait,
watched
hold on, wait, actually, hold on.
You
Have
should
you
watch
actually
it,
not seen that, Mitch?
You
it.
should
I
watch
think
it.
I did.
It's the one where the girl, it's like a robot, and the guy goes to stay at this house to observe the robot that the weird billionaire guy made, and then
And then they
like,
fall in
ends
love.
up-
Well, he
It kind of manipulates him and shit, and then
yeah,
he's not
sort
even
of,
sure if
sort of.
he's
They
a
fall in
robot.
love. It's not her though. It's not her. It's the one where they like. He's got to see if this robot passes the Turing test. And then like he
Yeah.
kind of falls in love with it a little bit.
It's blending with all the.
Kinda
There's a
fucks
Johnny
it
Depp
over.
one.
He kind
No,
of.
that's Transcendence.
Yeah, I'm just blending all of
It's
them.
the
in my
redheaded
mind.
guy, and it's like the robot, and he's like talking to it every once in a while, and then eventually it starts to like manipulate him, and then
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Like,
look at some Google
There's
images.
only like
and I'll
5
see.
people in this entire movie.
yeah. There's literally
Like-
5 people.
and
5
correct me if I'm
characters.
wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, but in the movie, the guy starts to question, like, am I a fucking robot?
Yes,
Yes.
he even like
Because he starts
He-
to be like, fuck, like, am I the one being tested? And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that guy is the guy from the Black Mirror episode,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Who
yes,
was
Oh.
like the replica of the woman's deceased
yes.
boyfriend, right? You remember that? It's like the redheaded guy where she like gets a robot in the mail and it's like a total exact replica of her boyfriend, and she ends up hating it because it's like not real, you know?
oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
So
Anyway,
I
we're
don't
going
think
into
I
some
saw it.
alternative fan theories of Ex Machina.
yeah.
Yeah.
I love your pronunciation. Oh, wow.
Thank you. I
Sounds
took Latin.
exotic. Did you see it, Mitch? Or do you want the spoiler?
I didn't see it. You can spoil it.
She gets released and like starts knifing people.
There was no climax there, Cam. What the fuck? I thought you were
No,
supposed to
Cam
be
does it.
good at this.
You still watch
So-
the movie.
yeah,
No,
you
it's still a cool movie. Yeah.
yeah, you should still watch it. But it's like basically, she's a robot. She
Oh, spoiler alert.
she gets released and like she escapes. So she's able to escape her lockdown essentially, right? But at the end of that movie, I turned to Christine and I was like, "Are you a robot? Did you
What'd she
just
say?
did you just convince me to help you escape you're locked down in Canada. Is that what happened? That's pretty much what happened. She hasn't responded yet, so
Christine,
here.
live response on
She can't
air.
lie, but she can equivocate. So if she wants, she can like sort of not directly answer the question.
mean, could say something
Just
like
like, aren't
that.
we all organic robots?
See, that's the fucking shit I'm talking about.
That's the stuff. Okay, question. Favorite Black Mirror episode? Let's do a round. What's the word they use? Like
Round the horn,
no, like
round robin,
no, a fire round. That's the word. It's like it's like
Lightsaber
a
round?
word they use, huh?
lightsaber round. Zzz.
Speed
You're on
fire. No, like,
speed.
what's the word?
Speed
Yeah,
round.
yeah.
There's like a
Rapid
word
fire.
for it. Rapid
Rapid fire.
fire. Maybe that's it. Yeah, rapid
Rapid
fire.
fire round?
We
Okay.
don't have to do rapid fire, but anyways. But what is y'all's favorite Black Mirror episode?
So I have not seen every Black Mirror episode, but I can tell you.
I already know what your
Mitch's-
favorite one is.
I can tell you Mitch's favorite Black Mirror.
No, you
I know
can't.
Mitch's favorite.
No,
Yeah.
you can't. You don't even know it.
His is that
Yeah.
dueling dragons one, the dueling cobras.
Mitch has not seen that one. For
We haven't
one.
seen that one. Oh shit, dude! Go
Mitch has
watch
only
it,
watched
and then,
two. Mitch has only watched
make
two
sure you have
Black
that-
Mirror episodes.
Make sure you have
Two.
a bucket.
One Black Mirror episode. I'll tell you the two Black Mirror episodes that Mitch has watched. One was Hannah Montana, which ended up being a years long episode. It was
That was pretty
ridiculous.
good. Wait, what do you mean?
That one
Is
was
it so
actually
long?
decent. That
You
song
mean it
is
was
still
actually
stuck in
long?
my head.
Not like there was a sequel.
No, I'm saying Hannah Montana is a
Striking
the
Vipers.
entire
That's
episode is
uh,
Hannah Montana.
Striking Vipers. Don't look at any spoilers.
okay.
Don't look up a description. Just watch it.
I'm sorry, Mitch. The second Black Mirror episode that Mitch has watched was the one where like the kid is like jerking it and he gets caught and then like
Oh,
they
yeah.
send him like a video
Yo,
of himself.
that one.
That's Mitch's favorite.
Mitch is like, I gotta stop, guys. I gotta stop.
That's
okay.
Mitch's favorite
I don't know
episode.
I don't know what genre you call that shit, but that is fucked up. Like it's like a slow burn the whole time. And then the
Dude,
ending.
like I like how that's the one he thinks is like the worst one. It's because you've only seen two of them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think my favorite one was
You
that
should watch
one
all of
where-
them because they're all worse than that.
Actually, Christine, what's your favorite one?
I like the social credit one because that
With that woman?
yeah.
You
and
liked
then-
it, Christine?
Well, it was like pretty fascinating because that one was like really close to what could be what's happening with social
It was like
credit
pretty
system.
realistic, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other one, remember there was one with like a dating app, and you had like a certain amount of time with the person. That one was also.
And then
pretty,
you go into like a cabin with them or something.
Right, like if
Yeah,
they-
yeah. I was thinking of that too. Yeah.
yeah, that one. Like those are the two that I remember the most distinctly. And then
And it has a kind of interesting twist at the end, I guess. They tried to make it like a sort of a
yeah,
happy
and
end.
then the Hannah Montana one. Well, it wasn't even Hannah Montana. It was Miley Cyrus. But we watched that one when we were at Mitch and Jess's over.
That really
at-
felt
after
like a
Christmas.
desperate cry for help. Like she was like,
Bro, that happens today. That
they
is
were like, here's the
happening
script. And she's like, I don't need a script. She's like, that's just my life you're describing.
today.
Right?
It's funny.
Why
'cause
did
the
you
little
like it?
AI robot looks like the actual AI robot toys that are. Remember you sent us an ad cam about that? Like it was this interactive toy thingy. Literally, her robot looked exactly the same. I was like, this
Oh,
is
that's right.
Oh yeah. It was like that whole thing of like if the kid's not speaking and stuff and it'll like play with them and talk. to
Right.
them.
That's what that robot looks like. And
There's actually a
that's-
story, a iRobot story, an Asimov story about that. The
Oh,
one called
the-
Robbie.
oh yeah, in the beginning.
Yeah. But also that robot actually does the same exact thing in the Black Mirror episode. It's like it's given to the kid who doesn't really speak, and now
Mhm.
like she has a friend and everything, right? And it's her best friend. Like that is some.
Did y'all see
creepy
the
shit.
one? Did y'all see the one with it starts off like these people are touring this museum of like electronic gadgets.
I do remember that, but I don't.
You
really
didn't see that one,
remember the
Drake? And it's
episode.
like
No.
it was fuck, what was it that happened? It was like they were trapping somebody in a robot somehow. I'm trying to remember how that one went, but that was crazy.
No, I
Wasn't
did not
the-
see that
Wasn't
one.
the museum though like artifacts of
Yeah,
modern.
but there was
right?
like one where it was like they told the whole story behind it. Maybe there was more than one like that.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe that was the whole season. I can't remember.
I remember two things, right?
Okay.
Two episodes. One, the social credit episode. I remember that one really well. The other episode that I remember really well is the cycling episode where they're like in these rooms and they're
Oh,
like
yeah,
doing all this cycling
where they
for
have
Oh
the-
points or
yeah.
that one
whatever.
with
Yeah.
the Bitmojis,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah. But then the other episode that I remember really well, and this to me is like really true to life, is I don't remember exactly the setup for it, but there would be a couple and they're having sex, but then they're not really into it. Neither of them are really into it. And they're just both playing their favorite scenes from them having sex in the past. It's like their eyes record everything into
Oh,
like
yeah.
a memory, and then they can just go and relive those memories. Right. And I'm like, that's reality. That's already what happens. People just don't realize it. Like how often do you hear about people like having sex and then they're just in their minds the whole time trying to remember like a really good time, because this time it's just like it's whatever, like it's been getting boring, or like people are just trying to relive some memory or recreate something in order to get that feeling again from it. That's the one that sticks out to me the most.
I do remember that one.
Hey, that
So are we
one,
supposed to? Am I supposed to like watch these? Like, I'm not sold on watching this shit.
that hey, Christine,
Striking
that
Vipers,
one,
I'll watch.
that one you were talking about is called Hang the DJ. I was just looking it up.
Mhm.
I didn't remember this aspect, although I remember the end. I just didn't remember like the significance of the end. But like that whole thing was an actual simulation just to test the compatibility between those two people that like got together at the
Oh,
end. Like the
right,
whole
right,
thing was
right.
simulated actually. Because at first I the way I remembered it was sort of like almost like a dystopian. That's the way it is presented, right? But I forgot the significance of the ending. That's such an interesting one. The one that
Okay.
really, yeah, go ahead, Mitch.
What's your take on this though? Like this social credit one? It's like it literally just programs so many people that I know to just be like, oh fuck, social credit. And then they
Well,
just
in a way, it's like it's already here. It's just like AI, right? It's already been here. It's the algorithm. We're already participating in it. It's literally the same thing. Like I think I guess what Black Mirror does really well is it takes kind of the elements of the system, like what people have been calling Moloch, right? Like it takes those things and it gives it an acceleration of like, here's where this is leading to. This is where this is going, right? And it does a really good job of exemplifying that. But then people don't pick up on it. Seemingly, it's like because nobody's doing anything different. They're like, "Wow, that was creepy. I hope that doesn't ever happen." And that's it.
But they're also like each episode is like a piece of the whole matrix, so to speak, So it's
Yeah.
like if you actually combine all the episodes together, it's like that's reality, actually. But each episode is just like focusing on one specific point within all of that. So it does seem so, you know what I mean? And if you don't have high processing ability or you can't put pieces together, you would just be like, oh, that's creepy. You know what I mean? The social credit, or like, oh, there was another one where it's like you had to dance for your life or something like that. Do you remember that one, Cam? Where it's like they had to dance and like impress judges or something like that to escape their
That
weird
was the
time.
cycling one.
Was that the cycling one? I don't
Yeah.
know. I
Yeah,
watched
was
it
like
so long ago.
you were
can't
doing the
remember.
cycling, getting points and shit. And you were
Uh-huh.
like in this sort of weird fucking dystopian thing where you had to go in like a cube
Yeah.
and like watch ads and porn and shit. And they like forced you to watch all this stuff.
Yeah,
And then I don't remember how, but it's like you would get a chance to go before the judges in sort of like a American Idol style like performance, and then they would either vote you next, and then that person would become one of the celebrities that everybody would like watch and everything. And
right.
it was a part of the whole cycle.
Right.
I was trying to find the one, I can't find it though on the list of episodes. But do you guys remember one where they go to like a haunted house and it's like a video game?
Nope.
There's like this implant that this guy's testing out. It's like a video game, and then he like goes into this haunted house, and then it's like it's like he's in
Wasn't
the
it Men
actual.
Against Fire or something like that? It's
Let me
called.
see.
It's in season 3 apparently.
No, that's the one where
Mhm.
it's like the soldiers
Oh.
play
Welcome
test. Is
to
that it?
our
Oh,
our
no,
podcast on reacting to Black Mirror. So if you've never watched any Black Mirror episodes, we spoil all of them for you here. Then we get Mitch's take on it. I'm not sold.
I thought it was a Black Mirror episode. Maybe it wasn't.
I'm gonna
Black
make my own
Mirror,
version of Black Mirror.
Haunted House,
What are
I
you
don't
gonna
know,
call it?
Mitch, you watch other things. Weren't you
Best
saying
for
you're
all
watching
mirror.
like Lord of the Rings
playtest. It was
recently?
playtest.
Oh yeah, we rewatched Lord of the Rings. That was something.
You watched Lord of the Rings.
The extended versions?
I never
Yeah.
finished them because I thought they were so boring.
You have to just watch them like an hour at a. It's like a TV show.
I've never finished them either.
Really?
I
I,
used to be
No.
obsessed.
I,
with
I think I got to like
Lord of the
episode.
Rings.
Well, I don't. They don't
Episode?
call them episode. Yeah, I guess
The
the
trilogy.
second, maybe the second one. How many are there? How many Lord of the Rings? There's like 4, right?
3.
Three?
It's
Yeah,
trilogy.
He's
Oh.
counting The Hobbit.
I never watched The Hobbit. And people were like, it sucked.
Yeah, so I watched 2 of them. I didn't see The Hobbit. I didn't see the last one, whichever one
The
is this.
Return of the
Oh, that's why you're not raving about it.
Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Oh, I mean,
Right? That's what it's called.
it. I think it's
The
pretty
Two
well.
Towers, The Fellowship of the Ring.
I saw the first one, and I think I saw the second one. That's it.
Oh,
I think Tolkien's
that one's pretty
overrated.
good.
I think Tolkien is overrated.
There's like a lot going
Whoa.
on in
Didn't
it.
he came through the portal. His
Tolkien?
being- Yeah.
Oh, I
Okay.
found I found one of those old Destiny YouTubes that had like so much good stuff in there I never heard. Shit was fascinating.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just leave it as a cliffhanger like that.
Like the
Okay.
old Portal interviews are really cool.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
original ones.
Yeah.
I
Those are
see.
really good.
Rebecca said some people are protesting allowing school funding to follow a child because it allows the government to control the curriculum, which could be considered the underlying goal. It's not about allowing school choice, it's more about government overreach. Definitely
Makes
that's
sense.
yeah, there's definitely specifically here in Florida, homeschoolers don't want it. They don't want the funding because included in that language is if you get this funding, then somebody has to come over to your house and make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. And
Mm.
Floridians are like, well, the whole reason why I'm homeschooling is so you don't fucking tell me what I have to do. So no, I don't want it. I'm already
I don't know
homeschooling.
what the laws are in Florida, but in Texas is pretty interesting. It's like you don't even have to show anything or do anything.
In Florida, every like few years or whatever, you have a teacher come over to your house and they say, you're homeschooling, right? And you're like, yeah. And they're like, good job.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
we don't even have that. There's some process you have to go through if your child was in school.
Uh-huh.
You have to do a process to like say you're homeschooling or whatever. But
Right.
other than that, let's talk about this real quick. Bruce said not to stop the Star Wars talk. I know because he was loving it because that was really good shit. But I saw the.
I want to
Real
know what color
Prestige-
lightsaber Bruce would want. Honestly, Bruce, if you can type in the chat. What do
Actually,
y'all
if everybody
predict?
could go ahead and do that in the chat.
Yeah,
and just let us
everybody
know.
boost us in the algorithm.
Let us know what
The self-perfected
lightsaber color
algorithm.
you would choose and why.
And why?
Yes, why?
That's the video challenge for this podcast.
Mitch, you can do one of those posts. I've been enjoying your posts lately. You and Jess are doing the whole asking random question things on Facebook. I know. I see.
Yo, you get
see
so
trying to-
many people who you're like, who the fuck is this person? I don't know
You
how I
said
became friends with
yellow.
them. Or those
Is
watchers.
that even a lightsaber color?
That was what that thing said. Remember
Yeah,
about
the
yellow?
thumbnail.
Yeah. Christine, you
Why
didn't
is
watch
yellow
that
so
video
important?
already?
Honestly, I wasn't really into that conversation. So I wasn't paying
Why
attention.
yellow light?
Now, if we talked about Lord of the Rings swords,
I was never really into Star Wars. Lord of the Rings, however, I did like the extended versions because they used to also come with like, remember you used to get the DVD with the special features? I literally
you watched
would-
the special features.
Yes.
Why did you like it so much?
I was okay.
Did you want to
But
be the
my
elven princess?
my crush in that movie was Legolas, Orlando Bloom.
Wow.
I did everything to
Wow.
watch any
This is-
scenes.
He was
Oh, yeah,
so
he was like the
feminine.
man for a
Oh,
while.
yeah,
He was like
this
the
is
guy.
this is actually how I got Christine. Because I was like, you like Orlando, right? Orlando, you can live in
He's like,
Orlando.
oh my gosh, he's like, I can't
Except-
help but
yeah.
love this.
Orlando Bloom's married to Katy Perry now, though, and well,
They're married?
they're
Oh, I
married.
thought Russell Brand was married to Katie.
They look like each other.
No, he was Russell Brand.
Is there a difference between Keira Knightley and Natalie Portman?
Who are these people?
Yes.
Hold
Wait,
on, I want to show you guys this real quick. Look, when I looked
Wow,
up
Katy
why
Perry and
yellow
Orlando Bloom
lightsaber,
they look like each other.
Look,
That's weird.
Yellow liquid stool.
Wow.
Nice.
People are not.
for the Jedi, a yellow lightsaber holds a special meaning. Okay, so either Bruce is very attentive and he saw that video when we were talking about it back then, or he really knows his Jedi lore. It represents the Jedi Temple Guard, and those who wield it are seen as highly skilled and dedicated to the Jedi Order. In some cases, Jedi who wielded a yellow lightsaber were formal temple guards themselves. And apparently Rey was given one, wielding a yellow lightsaber.
I like how Bruce is like, hey, let's stop this fucking Star Wars talk. Let's talk about something else. And we're like, so Bruce, which lightsaber do you like?
Wait, what? Anybody else give us any answers? Did anybody
No,
choose
he's the
purple?
only
Just
one.
Bruce. Wow.
Yeah.
Way to
No-
support
no
the
one-
channel, guys.
I want to
but
know
he
what
was
color
at-
Rebecca would choose.
It's Mitch doing it. I'm trying to get onto the rest of the comment, and he keeps steering it back to lightsabers.
I bet Rebecca would choose like fuchsia, like a super hot pink.
People are saying that they wouldn't answer this dumbass question.
I would.
Okay,
I would
actually, no,
choose
now we
like a
have people.
transparent.
Owen said red. Aaliyah said red.
Wow. It's
Um,
like self-perfected red or like dark
Evil,
side red. Okay.
evil.
Chantel said
Evil.
Glaucus lightsaber.
Glaucus.
A Glock.
I don't know.
Glock
There's
instead of
I
lightsaber?
don't really trust that that's Chantel because we were over at their place last week, and let's just say that Owen sometimes uses Chantel's account to comment his
Wow.
comments.
Ah.
Owen is like a professional troll.
Yeah, he is.
Uh,
It was pretty funny. though.
Glaucus is like a guy in
okay.
Star Wars.
Watch
See,
Chantel
how does he
actually be a
even
Star
know
Wars
that?
Maybe, maybe she meant
Yes,
glaucoma
yes, yes.
lightsaber, like glaucoma lightsaber, like one to cut out the cataracts.
Glaucus looks like a giant eyeball.
I'm not surprised. Is he
How
a
do they even
giant
know
eyeball?
this?
I bet. Oh, I could see Owen being really into Star
That
Wars.
pause, that long pause between them putting what color they want, and then us asking and them putting the color, it was actually them researching. Okay, who has the coolest lightsabers? Glaucus.
Wow,
Apparently.
he's a weird looking dude.
I've been able to figure out what his lightsaber looks like though.
He doesn't actually have one.
Oh, so this
That's
is like
what
a
I'm
real thing.
Doesn't look like
I
he has
thought you just
arms.
said-
Well, in any case, Mitch, are you gonna talk about lightsabers again? I'm just watching you. All right. So
I'm gonna
Christine
be
said
black lightsaber.
That's not a choice you can pick.
black light. That would be cool. You're like waving it around. There's like all this weird like white glowing stuff on your shirt, and you're like, oh shit, I just changed my shirt.
Aaliyah said white lightsaber. Is that even a thing?
That would be
Oh,
cool.
she's part of the white light.
I would use a transparent one. So you wouldn't know if it was on or off. You would just
Oh,
hear
you're
it.
really dangerous.
You would just hear the hum of my lightsaber slicing through your flesh.
That sounded
Uh,
really
So are
interesting.
we gonna just leave this
Very
climax here
artistic.
about Bruce's extremely?
Well, I thought it was pretty cool that thing about monoculture farming and
I didn't see
I didn't
it.
know about companion planting. He was
So-
asking about that.
So Christine just finished that book, by Joel Salatin. Everything I Want to Do is Illegal. That's what it's called, right?
War stories from something from the
From the farmland,
front or say yeah.
farm front, yeah. And yeah. So tell us about it, Christine. Tell us what you learned.
Give us your book report.
My book report. It was pretty eye-opening because he kind of gives like from a boots on the ground perspective what it's like to be a local farmer or want to do local farming. And it's pretty sad because I was telling Drake, I'm like, it's crazy because this book was written in like 2007 or something. So I can't even imagine how much things have shifted from then. And even then, back then, it's like he was saying all this stuff and I was like, holy shit. But basically, it's like the more government regulation that you want in your food production, the worse quality food you're going to get, because essentially you're what it takes to run a government like a certified facility, it's like the overhead alone is like $200,000 to like have everything to code and to like have all the paperwork and all this kind of bullshit. But then it's like when you actually look at what it takes to be a small farmer, and you don't need all that stuff necessarily, like all the protocols and all that kind of stuff to, you know, ensure that everything's clean. It's not the problem is though, is that it's not because it's not to code, then it's like they want you to change everything. But then it like, anyways, it's just like basically it's like anything that you want to do on a small local scale is just not, it's like there, no one's going to come and verify you, or they'll just come and like sue you or say that you're trying to harm the environment or whatever. So then it's like you're forced essentially to use a government funded facility, but then again it's like you're just totally adulterating the quality of the food that you're creating.
So side note here, look at that. Just two things there. Because earlier, Cam, you were talking about the taxes and how all these families that made a bunch of money was pre-taxes. And then they put these taxes on you. And so now if you want to change anything,
Well,
as
for context, pre-taxes mean before like the tax systems are put into place.
Yeah. Okay,
Not,
fair enough.
not
fair
pre-tax
enough.
income. That's not what we were talking about.
Right. But also in order to change the laws, in order to change things, it's not just, oh, we all agree and I got 1 million signatures or whatever. It's you have to pay
$2 million.
$2 million, right? So
that's just at some
also
fucking
have that
local,
money.
like that's just like Florida.
Exactly.
Like,
That's
could
just,
you do that at the federal level?
No, you'd have
Like,
to. Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
even possible, I don't think.
Exactly.
So
So,
yeah.
I'm just bringing that up because then, as well as, oh, you want to regulate food your way? No. You have to have at least $200,000 for a facility in order to play ball with this game. But yeah, keep going, Kristen.
I was just gonna say the book was cool because it was broken down into different chapters of like, bird flu, for example, or like mad cow. Like he just kind of went in on all these very specific things about like the food system. So it's just interesting because a lot of the times it's all just like problem, reaction, solution, but the solution is always just like more government regulation, which just takes further away from like the actual sustainable local farming.
So it's like the
style.
problem was kind of created by the big factory, whatever you, for lack of a better word,
Right.
factory farming type setup.
Exactly.
But then they use that to scare everybody, then to get more regulations, which creates ultimately more of that.
right.
Because if you have like,
Exactly.
it's like raising cows out on a pasture, they're relaxed, they're out there, versus sticking them in little pens where they're standing under fluorescent lights, or, you know, and it's like, which one do you think is going to ultimately long-term produce the better thing?
Right.
You know, and so the regulation tends to be more automated, everything in, you know, nice little cookie cutter cells and everything perfect and pristine, but it's not.
Yeah.
Actually.
And then it's a lot of it's like what he was kind of always making fun of is that you have all these like bureaucrat people, you know, from the government come to your farm with their like little papers because they just need to sign off on like, oh, you're following everything to code. But it's like these people are so like they don't even know about farming. They're so far removed from what it takes to actually have good quality food. Like they're just like, well, I'm just doing my job. Like, and this is what you need to do in order for me to leave or whatever. But it's funny because it's even like, for example, if he wants to hire people to like help out on the farm, it's like then you run into, if someone's below 18, like, you know, he's actually like, it'd be cool if you could if you could have younger people on a farm, because that's when you would learn the most, especially
Yeah.
if you want to become a farmer as an adult. But then I can't hire someone, and then if I want to also have people come and just visit the farm because it's a production facility, I can't have just like visitors, like I can't have paying visitors, because then I need to have a public washroom and this and this. Like there's so many things that you have to
Wheelchair
go through.
ramps.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So it's just silly. And then the video that Bruce is bringing up is, I don't know who Joe Rogan was talking to in the video, but he was just talking about how, you know, everyone's pushing for this like plant-based movement. Like that's the way that we need to go. But when you actually look at where plant-based stuff is coming from, so let's say like the Beyond Burgers and all that kind of stuff, it's like more and more you're needing those like monoculture crops, because it's like, what are you creating those plant-based things with? It's like soy, corn, I don't even know what else, but those are the two bigger ones. But then when you look at people like Joel Salatin that have a more smaller operation, and it's like they have, for example, like the cows are pasture grass grazing, and then you do different things where it's like you use the manure of the cows to like do this over here. Like everything is a very interconnected system where it's like you don't need all the stuff that the big farms use, like all the fertilizer and stuff like that, because everything is like a self-sustaining kind of culture within the farm. So anyway, so basically like then the video was saying, if we did more of that, then there would be less need for all this like plant-based push essentially, and then monoculture, which is what is actually deteriorating the environment. But then it's like that's what people are pushing this plant-based stuff. So it's like, even because even someone was commenting on the video that I posted, like, well, isn't that what they feed most of the cows? It's like corn and grain. And I'm like,
Or no, what they said was, isn't the majority of the corn going to livestock?
right.
As if implying that, well, if you're saying everybody should eat meat, but that's why the corn's being grown. So, right. But I liked what you said,
What?
the way you responded to it.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just saying like, yes, that is the case, but that's because you have all these big farms where they kind of need to do that because they're not doing the pasture grass grazing kind of thing. But if you had a smaller farm, they wouldn't even need the grain that you're growing. Like it wouldn't even go towards that.
And even
but-
if there was some level of grain, it wouldn't be at the level that it is now, because you're feeding like grain to, you know, because like if you have a dairy cow and you don't do grain, it's a lot more difficult. But you don't need to feed grain to like your beef, for example.
Right.
I mean, I'm not an expert on it, but my point being that you could bring it down a lot. Plus I looked it up and it's like a third of it in the US of corn production goes to livestock and a third of it goes to gasoline.
Ethanol.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm like, and I don't know why ethanol is in gasoline. I'm not sure why. I haven't looked into it, but I do know that it only causes problems. You know, like seriously, like, because okay, like you guys all drive, you have cars. You probably drive every day or at least once a week. I mean, I'm sure probably more often than that, right?
Yeah.
But so the gas is never really sitting in your car very long, right?
Right.
But like we have, you know, some vehicles for the ranch, like an ATV, for example, and we didn't drive one of them for quite a bit. And then when we started it up, it was like kept dying. It was like stop, start kind of thing when I'm trying to drive it. And it's because I left the gas in there and it has the ethanol. And that ethanol gets like really sticky in there and like clogs up the fuel injectors or whatever the fuck.
Mm.
So you have to put some stabilizers and other stuff in it, but it's like, it's because of the fucking ethanol. And again, I don't know exactly why it's in there, but I don't see why it's needed. And it just caused problems. So a lot of the corn is just being grown for that because
And
they were subsidizing it.
I
And then you
think-
got corn syrup.
Yeah, I think we talked about it on a previous podcast, but like literally all the small farms were basically systematically destroyed not even just by like your government, quote unquote, but by the World Bank, right? The World Bank has gone into virtually every country that has any sort of major agricultural production and subsidized big farms and taken away all the little or incentivized people to leave their little farms that were subsistence farmers, and not just destroyed their own economy, but also is destroying their ability to eat food there, because they're all growing this one crop like quinoa or some shit, right? And they're exporting it, so they don't even get to eat it. They're exporting this shit, and they don't get to survive off of what they were originally doing, which I'm not saying was so great or grand or anything like that. But now they're living literally on pennies to the dollar, and they cannot afford to go back to subsistence farming because they won't get paid anything. And all the land has been bought up by one major corporation. So it's like, that is something that should be looked at when we're talking about this subject of, yeah, it's not just your farming and you're growing a monoculture. It's being incentivized to grow this monoculture for various different reasons, but mostly because the big banks make a lot of money off of it, and it allows them to control.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. It's there's no principle in it. So it's like, okay, what do I need to do to get some money in this particular point? You push that. And then it like creates all those incentives and people start focusing on that. But you're not looking at the long. So it's like you do have certain points which are kind of behind everything, but they're not really looking at it in terms of a what's best for everybody situation. Right. So it's like, it's more like, how can I suck every last bit of something out of this? And then what's fascinating is it creates problems. Like, a lot of that regenerative farming talk that I've heard, their perspective is that the climate change is driven by, which lines perfectly up with, if you go and study, if you go to the Destiny website and look up climate change and look at the articles there on climate change, it lines up with that, which is climate change is a thing, but it's driven more by our identification with ego and separation and focus on that and not who we are as life. And so it creates consequences, which is not to say, oh, it's the carbon dioxide that's building up. That's not what it's saying.
Right.
But now if you look at the regenerative argument, it's saying that we're turning big parts of the world into deserts.
Yeah.
Because of the way we're doing the crops, the way we're doing cattle and so forth, instead of using it as a way to regenerate. So it's like you take cattle, they eat the grass, they poop on the field, that becomes fertilizer.
Right.
Right. And then there's a whole process there versus put them in a lot. It's all dirt. You just give them grain. Right. And then you just live in the grass and you grow corn on that. You get that for fuel and corn syrup. So now everybody's getting sick, from eating all the fucking corn syrup or whatever. And then it starts causing problems because there's desert here and there's not grass and trees or whatever. It starts fucking with the way in which like weather systems work.
Right. Yeah.
So that starts having effects on the temperature and so forth. And so what we're seeing, at least according to that argument, is it's like the effects of pursuing everything from a starting point of greed. You start having all these effects. And then what will happen is, okay, again, the same people, I'm not saying it's the same individual people, but it's like the same people in general who are looking at how can I make profit from something? I'm trying to move money. I'm trying to make profit. Okay. Oh, look over here. We can incentivize research on climate change. So now we can find a way to exploit this problem.
Right.
Even though it's like because of the original problem in the first place, it's just compounding on itself, compounding. It's kind of like with the transgender thing. Like you've got the hormones going crazy in the water or the chemicals. You've got people with no sense of purpose. You've got people who are confused. You've also got communists and fucking Marxists and shit. And they're all creating this situation where children are like, oh, I don't know what gender I am. And they're like, oh, look at this problem. We need to put money. We need to affirm it. We need to do this. And then that's going to exacerbate the problem. There's going to be more unstable people who are stressed out, unstable, So they're not getting married. Okay, that creates more instability. You just see how all this just keeps compounding, compounding.
It's never going back to like the root of the problem. It's just like, okay, how can we capitalize? We have a new problem from this problem that we created. How can we capitalize on the new problem? You know?
You know what's funny is like we talked about this in like some of our early podcasts about like creating a world that's best for all, utopia, and people saying like, oh, you can't do that, it'll just turn into like a dystopian thing or whatever, which I mean, we already are doing that. But also the whole point of saying you can't have utopia because people are evil, people try to get power and so forth. It's predicated upon you still have an elite group of people who know what's best.
Right.
Instead of everybody making decisions because they're educated on how things work and they're educated in considering things like this with principles to just figure out what would be best.
Yeah.
Like, will you always automatically already know what's best? No, but you could sit down and start trying to figure it out. Like if you're Joel Salatin, you'd be like, okay, I want to farm, I want to do this, but I want to do it in the way that's best for the animals, that's best for the consumer, that's best for me and the land and all that stuff. You're just trying to figure out what would actually be best here. He is a person who would be limited because the larger system is like, no, you can't do it that way. Because that doesn't fit into what we're doing. And we certainly can't have a lot of people like you thinking like that. And, so it's a point where you don't have enough people. It's not, you need a few who's like the new dictators who just know what's best. That's like, people always try to put that on us of like, oh, you just want to say what's best for everybody. I'm like, no, if I did, I would just fucking try to tell everybody what's best. I'm saying study the principles, go back to your vocabulary and see where you're still allowing bias and energy and so forth to determine your understanding of things. Because if you can clear that out and develop an effective vocabulary and support children do that, we could all start to see more and more, oh, this is what's best here. That's what's best here. That's what's best there.
Right. Christine brought up a really great point this morning. I don't know what were you reading, Christine?
Someone posted one of those, it was a short reel about how to raise your vibration, or 5 ways to raise your vibration, something like that.
Right. Okay.
And literally the list of things was eat nutritious, nourishing food, move your body. Can't even remember what the other thing, maybe meditate, but I don't even remember. It was just like things that I was like,
sit on top of a washing machine when it's on.
But I was just making the comment because I was like, because I used to be like caught up in, raising your vibration, all that kind of stuff, right? But I'm like, it's so fascinating because it's like we're just using this vocabulary basically to describe something that it's like, shouldn't that just be like living, like taking care of your physical,
just be like the best possible condition.
Right, exactly. Like, why does it have to be raise your vibration?
It's so funny. Some abstraction.
Because your emotions feel like they're vibrating in you, and people just, on average, right now, still give a fuck more about their emotions and that feeling. It's the addiction.
But it's funny because it's like how many people are so fucked up emotionally that now because what's come out of that is like this self-care movement of, oh, I'm going to take some time for myself, make sure I cook myself a good meal, maybe like do a face mask, like all this kind of stuff. Right. But then it's like, you do that for a moment, you raise your vibration and you're like, I feel good right now. And then literally the next morning you wake up and you have the same fucking thought of, I hate my life. I don't want to go to work. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, so anyways, it's just so short-sighted on what you're actually trying to do because you're not looking at the root of the problem. You're not questioning your own mind of why you're even feeling that way.
This is why, I mean, okay, I don't know how you guys feel. I'm sure everyone goes through this. It's super easy to go into like a point of like despair and like, just like, this is such a big problem.
Yeah.
But this is why it's important for us to, people will react to the word recruit, but it's like, go and talk to people and bring them in and show them and share with them what we're doing and to take it on for themselves. And that might sound like, I'm sure people would react to that to some degree, but it's like, but that's, if you wanted to cure autism, wouldn't you be like, I need to go out and talk to people and get them and raise money for it and share with them why we need to change all this. And, you know, if it was if you're a transgender activist, you need to get out there and tell everybody why we need gender affirming care. And this, if you're a like, if you actually care about something, you'll want to go and get other people to understand why it's important. The difference with what we're doing is it's not enough to just talk about it. Is that one, you have to live and show that you are walking the point, but also to share with other people and sell them on why they should also do it. Doesn't mean everyone's going to do it, right? But initially, it's like you don't need okay. There may be a person who would do something if they saw more people doing it. And then there are people who will do something because they see the point of doing it, regardless of how many people are doing it. So don't get caught up in the point of, well, why aren't there more people doing it? Or I can't get every person that I talk to. It's like, yeah, that's okay. It's like things go in waves and they grow and so forth, right? But it's like, if you go into any points of despair, despondency, feeling bad, feeling overwhelmed about the problem, the solution is to stop participating in that and then make it your purpose to expand this group, right? Because if it doesn't expand, you can't say like, oh, I'm doing my process and I just don't know what to do. Like, if you're not expanding, if you're not growing and sharing with other people, then how is that doing your process? Right. And I mean, if we can make peace with the fact that, you know, we're only going to be here, each of us, a limited time, then all the things that we're afraid of is irrelevant, isn't it? I mean, I know it doesn't feel that way in the moment, like when you're in a state of fear, but this is kind of why I brought up earlier that point about survival versus living. Because we always go into this excuse of, well, I have to survive, as if living and doing what is best implies that you're probably just not going to survive. If you actually, I think it was Owen had posted something. I don't know if it's actually on his wall or if he just took a picture of this, but there was like someone had made a banner out of like one of Kanye West's tweets. Do you see
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
And it said something about, what was it? It was like,
it's not his wall.
it's not his wall. Okay. I couldn't tell, like, you know, but it said something like, I'm the reason I smile every day or something.
Yeah.
Do you remember, is that what it said?
It said something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. I'm the reason I smile every day or whatever. I just thought that was really cool. If you look at it, instead of from like an egotistical perspective, it's like, instead of going into, I have to survive, like, okay, how can I just enjoy my life in this process? And like, if I truly love being here, okay, if you're just trying to survive, why? Is it just fear of dying?
Yeah. I think for a lot of people.
Yeah, fear of dying or fear of pain on the way to death.
Okay, cool. So fear of dying, fear of pain, and so forth, right? So that's not really like loving your life,
Right.
you know, and loving your life, man, it's like, how do we get this across? Because we're all in this process of realizing this for ourselves, but it's like, we are individual incarnations of life itself, which might sound really abstract to some people, might sound really obvious to some people. We're not our personalities. We're not our identities. Those are things that are a part of us in the individual expressions that we are in, but it's not who we are fundamentally. Right. And so I was watching this video, or I was listening to this video this morning of Slavoj Žižek, or however you say his fucking name.
Yeah.
And Noah Yuval Harari.
Okay.
And they were talking about, Harari was asking him, like, what's after identity politics?
And it was Zizek like,
He's like, oh, okay. But yeah,
What's his answer?
it was cool because Harari basically was saying, like, we all fucking know that identities are social constructs. He was like, we've played this game many times. It's a foregone, it's basically like, it's a done deal is what his point was. Like, we know all of our identities are constructed. So now where are we at? Like, what's next? And it was interesting because, like, Zizek's answer was, well, it was a whole lot of context to it. But it's like the problem that you have to watch the video to see all the context, but he kind of goes into a moralistic perspective about it. So I don't want to go into all that context of what his answer was, but that conversation is interesting to me because it's like, okay, our identities are constructed. People are understanding that. So now where are we at? And we could go into all of this. Well, some people are in identities that are oppressed and so forth, and we can play all that game, but it really doesn't fucking change anything. Because the solution to oppression, he made this one interesting point, and I'm kind of giving it out of context, but he said, if you take a state of neutrality, like he was giving this example with Nazis, and he was saying like, okay, he said the Nazis they had their point of view. Okay, according to his idea of what Nazis were, right? That the Jews were bad and were causing all the problems, right? And he said, however, and he said, that's wrong. And he said, however, they had also facts, like the Jews made up 60% of art critics. Okay, fact. He said, so you couldn't argue with their facts. He said, but if you start going into their facts, then what happens is they're being used to argue for something that is not acceptable. And so it's like, you can't take a neutral point within it. And so he was saying, it was really interesting. His point is that truth is not neutral. And objective truth, it's not that there isn't an objective truth, but it's not a neutral point. And it's really interesting because without principles, I mean, that's already kind of how people treat it, actually. People are not neutral about it. It's not like, okay, for example, we were driving to Shreveport and I saw a big billboard and it said, Jesus is the only answer. Right?
What was the question?
Right. Well, but look at that. I mean, that's not neutral.
Yeah.
It's the only, they're saying it's the only answer.
So
Can we be like, well, guys, I mean, there's lots of ways and everyone has their own thing like that. What his point was about the neutrality is that only plays into the hands of the system as it is.
it makes a lot of sense because, like, you know, if I talk to somebody and their talking point, let's say, is that 50% of men in prisons, or 50% of or even, how about this, 80% of prisoners are men, right? And only like 20% of prisoners are women. And that's like, wow. So obviously we have a disparity here. Men are unfairly treated when it comes to the criminal system here in the US. Or you could go even further.
Discriminating against men.
Yeah, or you could say it's discriminating against blacks or whatever, just based on those numbers. But then if you look into it, you might find, oh, well, men commit most of the crimes, or this race or whatever it is. It's like, there's no neutrality in that. And then even from that, it's like, okay, let's go even further. Why are these people committing crimes? What's going on there? Well, they have been influenced by this. So it's like, it's almost like, you know, that Chinese story where the guy's like, his son rides on a horse and breaks his leg. But then the next day, and everyone's like, oh, that's so bad.
So terrible.
Yeah. And then the next day, the army comes in, but they couldn't take his son because his son had a broken leg, and said, oh, you're so lucky. Your kid doesn't have to go to the army.
That's actually what happened this morning with that chicken. I was like, oh no, its leg was broken. And then like the army showed up and they tried to take the chicken, but they couldn't get him. So they were like, all right, we'll leave your chicken.
You're so lucky, chicken, right? And then you gave the chicken to the pigs.
And then the pigs, yeah.
Yeah.
And the chicken was like, sweet. And I was like, well.
but that's really like, there's no neutrality actually, because there is all this coloring that comes from our own biases, our own, like, kind of what we were talking about this morning with the sounds of the words and the energy behind the words, right? It's like the words that you use as anybody is already colored with a lot of energy behind it, because when you were a child, your parents spoke these words with their own energy. And they never considered what energy that they're speaking. Like,
even if they weren't speaking it within a point of energy, it's infused with it because it's within them.
So think about it like, when you're going to go talk to somebody, like just pay attention to the way that you talk to people. How do you talk to your kids? How do you talk to your spouse? How do you talk to your boss? How do you talk to your friends? I bet you have a different tone when you're talking to each of these groups of people, right? Why is that? And try taking on the friend, or the kid tone when you're talking to your boss, right? Like it's not, you're going to find it's actually difficult for you to do that, right? Why is that? It's an automatic response that's happening within you because of the way that you were imbued with those energies.
And that's the
sounds.
resonance point, is like you automatically go into certain expressions based on the other person's resonance and vice versa.
That's cool, because that reminds me of in these other EQF interviews I'm listening to, like with certain things that you're forgiving, taking a different, it's like directing yourself in a different way. For example, like if you have a big pattern with stress, it's going to be a different type of way where you direct yourself in your words when you're forgiving yourself for your stress through sounding the self-forgiveness, which will be different than, let's say, like a blame or like a fear or whatever. And that's really cool, because what we're alluding to here is that we've all been pre-programmed to just participate in energy and go along with the system and then just be neutral, and it just kind of progresses the whole thing. But in your process of directing yourself and directing other people and supporting other people to direct themselves, it requires that decision. And that comes through in every single thing you do, including the tonality.
Here's the thing. You yourself are not neutral, right? It's like for somebody to tell you to be neutral is as if you have your car on a hill, a very steep hill, and they're saying, just be neutral. Like, don't, why are you pushing forward? Stop, just let it be neutral. And what's going to happen is your car is going to go all the way fucking down at very high speed and crash, right? And so you're either going to have to, like, especially if you're on a hill in a car, you're either going to have to be moving forward or you're going to have to be pressing the brakes, one or the other. You can't just be neutral, right? And so you are already in a system, and the system is within you where it's already moving in this direction. So if you think you can just go along with things or just stay out of things, you're not changing, you're not challenging that system within you at all, meaning you're actually contributing to the system. So there is no quote unquote neutrality from that perspective. That doesn't mean that you have to be, I don't know, like I think what people think of when they think of like not being neutral is, oh, that means you're going to be really aggressive. You're either aggressive or neutral. I think that's how a lot of people perceive it, right? But it's like, that doesn't mean you have to be an evil person or aggressive or violent or any of that stuff. It just means you have to make a stand. You have to make a decision, and then you have to push forward with that decision, right?
Well, it's like the red pill versus the blue pill. You can't just be like, oh, I'll just take the one in between. It's like you either are going to accept things as they are, which you'll eventually have a consequence, because it's like even the hill analogy, it's like more like a sinking ship, because the system is it's so obvious when you look at all of this a lot, how everything is starting to like click together to tighten down on everybody. Right. And I was listening to that Catherine Austin Fitts and Kim Iverson this morning. And the point was, they said they're coming for your kids. And that's the point, is people think because it's working for you right now, it's okay. But what is your kids' life going to be like? I mean, can you guys imagine 20 years from now, if nothing has changed? Like, where everything is at right now, where you can see how, even though it's working for some people are just okay getting by, but you can see how it's like where it's going. Right. Where it's like, imagine your child, they have an account and it's a CBDC, central bank digital currency, and they determine everything they're able to purchase or not purchase. And it's just total control. And if you don't get the vaccine, you can't purchase things. If you don't get this, if you don't go along with that, I mean, it's the social credit, it's all that shit. That's what's being implemented and put together. It's like, well, I don't see that, but look behind the scenes. Like, if you can relate to the fact that the creation of the Federal Reserve led to a lot of bullshit. But it wasn't like day one they created it and it was like, well, look, everything's changed. No, it took time for it to unfold. It was just one of the points that was put in place. So that's what's happening right now. So I think about my kids, and it's like, as a parent, as an individual, or me and my wife as parents, as individual parents, the best thing we can do at that level for them is to support them to develop a really high vocabulary and principles. Okay. But then what's the bigger thing beyond that? And so at the moment, bigger thing beyond that is get a lot of other parents to do that. And then also through that, put yourself in a position where you can go on to other points of responsibility and decisions, because there's a lot there. I mean, it's a lot, but we cannot allow ourselves to go into a point of like, well, just going to give up and we're defeated. It's over. It's like, that's not an option.
Right. I was just talking with somebody yesterday about that, specifically about that point of just like, okay, if you're thinking everything is fine right now, you're really like just putting it off to your kids, and you're setting them up for failure. It's literally just like you've been drinking, if you stop, you'll have a massive hangover. So you just drink more. That's where we're at right now. It's like, it's still there. The problem's still going to be there, but you have to stop eventually. Otherwise, you're just delaying you having to deal with it. That's all you're doing. Right. And that works for drinking. You should stop drinking. But that also works for like the system and how we're participating in it.
What's a cool story is they're both very similar, actually. Rapunzel and Rumpelstiltskin. Because both of them have this point where,
because they both start with R's and they have L's in them and
M's
M's
part of it
in them. Yeah.
See,
and
now you're seeing the
P's,
real patterns that I see.
Rumpel and Rapunzel. Yes, I see it. Very similar stories.
You got a beautiful mind like I have. See, this is how I knew the CIA was communicating with me. As I started to put the letters together and I signed each letter a number. No, but in the story, in both of them, there's a point where the parent or the parent to be takes a deal, and the collateral or whatever it is the child.
Yeah.
Like in Rapunzel, according at least to like the one of the stories, because there's different versions of it, but it's like the father is trying to, that one's even more appropriate, because the father is trying to get this lettuce from this garden. And I think it's called Rapunzel lettuce. I don't know if that's a normal kind of lettuce or if that's just from the story or whatever, but that's where the girl gets the name. And this witch has the garden, and she's like, the guy's like, I really need this lettuce. My wife needs it. Like, I don't know if they're starving or whatever. They need stuff from this garden. And the witch is like, well, I'll let you have it. Like, but what will you give me? He's like, I'll do anything, whatever it takes. And she's like, all right, well, you got your wife's pregnant, or she's going to get pregnant, and you're going to have a girl, and you have to give it to me. And he's like, well, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, well, you already agreed to it. And he's like, what are you talking about? I didn't agree to it. She's like, yeah, you said you would do anything. So you already agreed. And he's just like, oh, fuck this. That's not going to happen. I'm not going to allow it. Right. But then I guess he still takes the lettuce. I don't know. Because probably he's just thinking
so
that's
he
not going to happen.
did agree, actually. He was like, I'm not going to do that. I'll take the slice though.
But it's kind of like, well, I guess you're right. I did agree. Oh, well, but I'll when it comes time to it, it won't happen. Same thing happens in Rumpelstiltskin. Right. She's locked in this place. This guy is trying to make her spin gold. And this little Rumpelstiltskin guy comes and starts like, and says like, I'll do it for you. Give me your jewelry or whatever. And so she keeps every night giving him something. And then finally it's like the guy's like the king or whoever's got this woman in this cave or this tower or whatever, spinning the gold. He doesn't know that's what's happening. He's like, dude, man, like this is a good setup. You got to spend all this like pile of whatever into gold. And so she's like distraught and everything. And then the Rumpelstiltskin guy comes and says like, here's my final thing. I'll do it for you. And obviously if you do, because if she does it this final time, the king's going to marry her. She's going to become the queen, whatever, or she's going to be really well set off. So that's her incentive. And Rumpelstiltskin knows that. And he's like, well, just promise me that you'll give me your firstborn child. Right. And she's like, sure. Okay. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, obviously that's I'm not pregnant. I'm not gonna, even if I had a kid, like he wouldn't be able to do that. Like I'm not worried about it. So she agrees from that perspective. And that's really, as society, as parents, however you want to look at it, if we're not going to stand up, that is actually what we're doing. We are selling our children into slavery. And it's like, how dare you use those terms to like say it? It's like, well, but that is what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
I
that
was
really
gonna-
is what it is.
It just made me think because Bernard says, or I hear people like, I know you and Guillaume say things like, Bernard would say, you know, like this is going to come to your doorstep eventually,
Mhm.
like all the, like, you know, the collapse of the system, you know what I mean? Like, even though you're in the first world, you're not immune to it. And it's interesting because my family, or my mom's side of the family, they left Venezuela to Canada because they could see, like, from even like in the early 90s that things were going south, especially with the politics and everything, right?
So they went north.
So, yes, exactly. And then it's funny because there's just like this, I see this like chain of reaction kind of thing, because it's like, okay, then they went to Canada. I was born in Canada. My mom didn't put me in daycare because she was like, fuck that. Like, I'm not putting my kid to be taken care of by someone else. But she still put me in school. You know what I mean? So I still got, like, you know, taken away in a certain sense and put down, you know, on the conveyor belt towards, oh, this is what you got to do to be successful. Anyways, fast forward now to COVID and all of the government stuff that was happening in Canada. And, you know, now with like, they just passed like a censorship bill, you know, all the inflation, all that's happening right now. And my mom was telling me, she's like, I never would have thought that in my lifetime I would be literally experiencing the exact same thing that I was afraid of that would happen in Venezuela in Canada. So it's like you see all these people moving to, like, I've seen people, you know, oh, like there's all this, the lockdowns happening in Canada. Let me just go to Costa Rica and live, you know, this like more minimalist
Yeah.
lifestyle or whatever. But it's like, again, you're just running away from the problem and not taking real responsibility to actually change anything. Like, it will, the way that everything's going, it's like this globalized cracking down on everyone is going to be identified, followed, tracked, and traced. If you know what I mean, to a certain level where it's like, if we don't stop this, like, you're not going to be able to escape it, basically. So running away is not the solution. So anyways, I just see that it's like such a good example of like people like like, if you're not going to do anything, I don't know what to tell you, but it's going to get really, really, really fucking bad and dystopian. Like, if you don't think it's dystopian now, it's going to get even fucking worse. So, you know.
And I mean, so that being said, all of the fear that we all have of like not surviving, living in a dystopia, whatever, it's like, what is there to be afraid of at this point? Like, in other words, what's there to be afraid of at this point that you, by listening to your fear, you can avoid? Because all that's going to do is it's going to manifest literally the things that we're afraid of. Not being able to
Right.
survive, not having freedom and so forth, right? And so that being said, can we shift ourselves into a point where we're like, hey, okay, how can I now take responsibility for this and at the same time enjoy this? And like, there's gonna be hard times, there's gonna be hard parts, challenging parts, but that's gonna happen anyways, regardless. So how can I enjoy this process and go out and really like share and live it, but support, like, really just think about it. All we're doing is educating people. And it's not just like any other type of thing where like, oh, there's tons of the YouTube channels where they talk about things, but they're not selling the person on the tools to really process not just what is being shared as the problem, but how to actually change the point within yourself, how to change the point for your children, and how to educate other people. Because that's always the part that's missed, is the, okay, so, but how do you actually change at the most fundamental point? Because that's the level where things have to change, not just at the top down level. Those things have to change too, but that's more from the perspective of that'll allow you to get more and more and more people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But at the beginning, it has to be the early adopter, so to speak. You have to get those who are in a position to hear, because there's a lot of people who aren't. Like, think about the people who are, they're like embracing their kids' transgender identity. Those people are so lost. And I'm not saying discard them, it's just they're so lost. But there's people who are questioning it. Okay, cool. But how much are they questioning? And so how can you get through to a person and help them see like, all right, here's what has to be done. And that's why we do this podcast, is just constantly like sharing our perspective on all of that. Any other points you guys want, or do you want to leave it at that for today?
Well, I just want to hit on that thing you said in case people missed it. It's like literally what you fear will manifest. Like really, really consider that listening to this. Like what you fear and everyone around you, all of their fears will manifest. So it's not just on you to then be like, okay, great, I'll forgive myself. It's like, yeah, start with that. But then also you got to take the responsibility to share with others consistently and build consistently. And like yesterday we had our clubhouse, and afterwards we had some people over, and it's like, it's been so cool to see over the years just how strong our local community is getting. And it's getting more and more people, and then they invite their friends, and it's like, we got people from here who just heard about the San Diego event, and then they bought their tickets, and it's just
Nice.
like this movement, this momentum. But it requires each of us that can hear this to be like a heartbeat, like no days off. I mean, if you have a day, family day or whatever, like but build it into your systems, and then every single day you're pushing more and more and more, and it has this compound effect to it as well. And then enjoy it.
Yeah, you know what's crazy? The Self-Perfected event is less than a month away.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Dude,
Yeah.
I haven't
it's
got any
gonna be-
tickets. We still have tickets. I mean, we're gonna finesse it to the last minute with like, we need the tickets for the like there's food and a bunch of stuff included. But shout out Kim. She knows how to finesse it. So,
Nice.
but like, if you want to be there, get your fucking ticket today.
Yeah.
Get your ass in gear, because we're doing the event and you don't want to miss out on this. Like,
It's gonna be
going
really
to be
cool.
legendary.
I'm gonna be there for like a week with the family.
Same. Nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and hanging out, and I think the content of it's going to be really good too, just in terms of what people take away from it. And it's like, this is the point where I'm just going to foreshadow a little bit. It's like, this isn't, we're going to an event. Like, this is all of us creating an event, which is a whole different, it's like a whole other level. Right. And I think I can see it's going to solidify a lot of things for people of like, okay, this is real. This isn't just us going to a gin event, for example, and talking about doing something. It's like actually doing it. And what I'm looking forward to also is meeting everybody who maybe I don't know them at all, or only ever seen them online or something. And they're not necessarily someone I already work with, like in TechnoTutor. I think that's the big difference, is that this is not a TechnoTutor event. This is like, although there'll be a lot of people there who already have TechnoTutor because they're part of Self-Perfected and so forth. But I think there's gonna be a lot of people who are there because they see that there's something to all of this, and being able to connect with people and just have some time and space to be able to like support is going to be a lot of fun. Because that's always when we go to events, when we do events, whatever, the part I enjoy the most is the sitting around the pool, chatting, staying up late, talking, all of that. And we always play games and stuff. So it's just going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Any
it's
other
gonna be
thoughts,
fun.
guys?
Get your ticket. We'll see you there.
All right. We'll see you on the next podcast also.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.